If you had a time machine, and I know this is a trope we use a lot in sci-fi, but really, just go with me here for a second.
Okay, I'm with you. Time machine.
So you have this time machine, and you could go back to a specific Tuesday, just a totally random, forgettable Tuesday, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Right.
And on that Tuesday, you're sitting across the table from someone you love deeply, but who is no longer here, someone you've lost.
Wow. Okay, that's a heavy visualization to start with.
It is. I know it is, but I want you to really picture it. You're there. You know what you know now. You know the whole story.
You know how it ends?
You know how it ends. You know exactly how much time is left on the clock, down to the minute. What do you do differently in that one moment? Do you, change a major life decision? Do you bring up that one fight you guys never really fully resolved, or do you just look at them? Do you just listen a little harder?
It's the silence, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what changes the quality of the listening.
Exactly. Do you ask the question you never thought to ask because you assumed you'd have 20 more years to get around to it? That hypothetical scenario is, it's pretty much where we are living today.
It is.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today. Usually we are, tearing apart a business case study or looking at some dense academic research on neuroscience.
Getting into the weeds on something very technical.
Very technical. Today we are diving into a source that is, well, it's unexpected.
To say the least. I was really surprised when you sent this over.
We are analyzing a piece of content, but really it's an entire ecosystem from the funeral program site and, get this, the funeral channel network.
Right. And I think we need to set the stage for what this source actually is, because the funeral program site, it sounds purely logistical.
It sounds like Kinko's for sad occasions.
Exactly. And in many ways, it is. If you go to their platform, it is this massive, sprawling hub for the business of death.
It's e-commerce for grief. That's the only way I can describe it.
Essentially, yes. They have thousands of templates. And we're not just talking about a couple options. We're talking gatefold funeral programs, graduated folds, trifolds.
I didn't even know those were different things.
Neither did I. They have memorial keepsakes, custom casket panels, specialized awareness ribbons for different causes. It is a very, very practical, highly specialized resource for people who are in the absolute thick of it.
Yeah, who are probably in the middle of the worst week of their lives.
Precisely. It's where you go when you need to get a program printed by Thursday, and you have no idea what font says. Dignified, but not stuffy.
But, and this is the reason we're here, this is why we're doing this deep dive tucked away inside this massive engine of logistics. There's a section dedicated to resources, articles.
Yeah, blogs, essentially.
And one article in particular, it caught her attention. It's titled, "What People Regret Not Doing After a Loved One Dies." And when I first read that title, I'll be totally honest, I braced myself. I thought, okay, here we go. This is going to be a guilt trip. I thought it was going to be 10 pages of telling me why I'm a bad friend or a bad son or why I should have called more.
That is the natural reaction. I think we are all incredibly defensive about our grief. We don't want anyone telling us we did it wrong.
But it wasn't that at all. It was surprisingly practical. Is that the right word? It felt almost like a user manual.
I think observational is the word I'd use. You have to remember the source. This isn't, some team of psychologists sitting in an ivory tower theorizing about grief from a distance.
Right.
These are the people dealing with the families during the process.
Yeah.
They're seeing the raw data of regret in real time.
Oh, that's a great point.
They see the families arguing in the lobby over a song choice. They see the person crying because they can't find a single good recent photo for the obituary. This is frontline data, as you said.
So the mission of this deep dive, then, isn't to make you feel bad about the past. It's to use this funeral channel network data as a blueprint.
A roadmap.
It's a shortcut. If we can look at what thousands of other people in the worst moments of their lives consistently regretted, maybe we can reverse engineer our relationships right now while everyone is still breathing.
To avoid those same traps.
It's like a cheat sheet for the living.
Ideally, yes. And before we get into the specifics, the individual regrets, I want to just touch on the scope of this source because it blew my mind. I was scrolling through the footer of the website, just doing my due diligence, looking at their supported regions and currencies.
I saw that too. It's not just a U.S. thing.
Yeah.
Or even a North American thing.
Not at all. It is a ridiculously long list. It lists Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, France, Japan, Brazil, the entire Eurozone. I mean, it lists virtually every country and currency you could possibly think of.
Which tells us what? What's the takeaway from that?
It tells us that the regrets we are about to discuss are not Western problems. They aren't, capitalist problems or modern American problems. They are human problems.
Right.
Whether you are paying for that funeral program in Japanese yen or in euros or in Zimbabwe dollars, the feeling of, I wish I had said I love you one more time, is absolutely identical. It's universal.
That universality is actually kind of comforting in a weird, dark way.
How so?
It means we aren't screwing up uniquely. We're all just screwing up in a very human way. It's part of the design.
We're all wired the same way when it comes to love and loss. That's the core of it.
So let's get into the meat of it. The source opens with a line that I wrote it down in my notebook. It says, "Death does not arrive with instructions."
It's such a powerful framing.
Yeah?
Just think about the rest of your life. You have instructions for literally everything.
Everything.
You get a syllabus for a college class. You get an employee handbook for your job. There are endless blogs and magazines on how to plan a wedding, how to have a baby. We obsessively plan the beginning of things.
But the end?
The end usually comes as a surprise.
Yeah.
Even when we know it's coming, like with a long illness, the final moment is almost always a shock.
Yeah.
The source makes this point that death rarely announces itself at a convenient time. It interrupts. And when it leaves, it doesn't leave clarity behind. It leaves, and this is their phrase, a silence filled with questions.
A silence filled with questions. I feel like everyone listening has felt that specific texture of silence. It's heavy. It has a weight to it.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's where the regret grows, in that silence. The source notes that in the weeks and months following a loss, when the casserole stops coming and the phone stops ringing with condolences.
And life goes back to normal for everyone else.
Exactly. That is when the regrets really surface. But here's the psychological twist that I found so fascinating. The source says these deep, nagging regrets are almost never about what people did.
Wait, really? Because I feel like I always dwell on mistakes I made. I shouldn't have said that mean thing in that argument.
And you might dwell on that, sure, that's a valid feeling. But the deep, haunting regrets, the ones that keep you up 3 years later on a random Tuesday,
Yeah.
according to this source, those are almost always errors of omission. It's what you did not do. It's the vacuum where an action should have been.
That makes so much sense. You can apologize for something you did. You can try to make it right. You can't apologize for something that never even happened.
You can't. You can't edit a blank page. And the article points out that these thoughts, they tend to ambush people. They come late at night. They come on anniversaries or birthdays.
Of course.
Or, and I think this is the most relatable one for me, they come in moments when life resumes and something feels unfinished.
Oof. It's that feeling of the world starting to turn again. The traffic is moving. The coffee shop is open. Your favorite show is on. And you're just standing there thinking, wait, hang on. I wasn't done.
You're still waiting for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah.
And again, the author makes a point to emphasize this repeatedly. These regrets are not meant to shame the survivor. So if you are listening to this and you feel a pang of recognition or your stomach drops a little bit,
Which it probably will.
it probably will, and that is normal. These are patterns that emerge across all cultures, all ages. They simply reveal what we value most as humans: connection, meaning, expression, and closure.
So let's look at the patterns. Let's get into the things we're all apparently failing to do. The first one is the big one. It's the one you see in every movie, but apparently it's true. The source calls this not saying I love you enough.
It seems almost too simple to be a deep dive topic, doesn't it? Say I love you. We learned that in kindergarten. But the data from these people on the front lines shows it is the #1 most frequently voiced regret, hands down.
Why, though? I mean, really, why? If we know we love them and we know on some intellectual level that they're going to die eventually, why do we hold back? The source lists a few reasons, and the first one I found myself just nodding along to is the assumption of understanding.
Ah, the telepathy fallacy.
Is that a real psychological term? Because it should be.
It should be, right? It's this pervasive belief that love is understood. You think, I've been married to him for 30 years. Of course he knows I love him.
Yeah. I make him lunch every day. I do his laundry. That's how I show it.
Exactly. Why do I need to say the actual words? It'll just make it weird.
Oh, the weird factor. That's huge. Especially in some families. I know in my family, growing up, we were not a big feelings family.
Right.
If I had just randomly turned to my dad at dinner and said, "Father, I cherish you," he He would have immediately checked his wallet. He'd think I was asking for money or that I had like a terminal illness.
Right. It feels performative. It
Yeah.
feels sentimental. And a lot of us, we hate feeling vulnerable. But the source points out that when death suddenly interrupts that relationship, that understanding you were relying on, it just evaporates.
It's not enough anymore.
It's not enough. Suddenly you aren't sure. You start questioning everything. Did he really know? Did she know how much I appreciated her? And those unspoken words feel, quote, painfully heavy.
That's the phrase. Painfully heavy. There is a physical weight to silence, to omission. And the source makes a really important distinction here. This isn't just about romantic partners. I think we assume this is about the husband who never told his wife she was beautiful.
Right.
That's the Hollywood cliche.
That's the cliche. But the text specifically calls out adult children and their parents. It calls out siblings. And it calls out friends.
Friends is a big one, a huge one. I mean, how often do you explicitly tell your close friends that you love them?
Almost never.
Yeah.
Especially between male friends, it's often seen as, I don't know, breaking the bro code or whatever. It's just not done.
But the regret is just as sharp. The source talks about this aha moment people have, this devastatingly simple realization that saying I love you costs $0.
$0.
It takes 2 seconds. It requires no permit, no application. It's the easiest thing in the world to do.
But we wait. Why do we wait?
The source calls it the illusion of endless time. We think the narrative of our lives has infinite pages.
Right. We think, oh, I'll tell them at their 50th birthday party, or I'll say it in a nice toast at their retirement.
I'll write it in the card for their anniversary.
We bank these moments for a special occasion that might never come. Life feels predictable. The source has this great line that says, we wait because life feels predictable or endless until it isn't.
That until it isn't is the cliff edge.
And once you go over that cliff, you can't climb back up to say the words. There's no do-over.
Okay, so that's the affection side of communication, but relationships, they aren't just about the lovey-dovey stuff. They're also about friction and conflict and messiness.
Of course.
And the next major regret is avoiding difficult conversations.
This is the flip side of the same coin. And honestly, for a lot of people, this might be even harder than saying, I love you.
Oh, way harder. This is about the fights you didn't have, or more accurately, the resolutions you didn't reach. The source talks about how we're naturally conflict avoidant creatures. We want to keep the peace.
Especially with aging parents or sick relatives.
Mm.
I mean, who wants to bring up some old childhood trauma when mom is in the hospital?
Nobody.
Who wants to dredge up an old argument and ask, why did you treat me that way? When everyone's just trying to have a nice Thanksgiving for once. So we swallow it.
We swallow it to keep the peace. But the source says when we avoid these talks, the unresolved issues become frozen in place.
That image really struck me when I read it. Frozen in place like a photograph.
Yeah.
If you have a misunderstanding with someone, say you think your brother stole money from you years ago, or you think your mother always liked your sister better, and you never address it.
Yeah.
When they die, that misunderstanding becomes the permanent, unchangeable reality. You can never get their side of the story. You can never hear their intention. You can never be corrected.
You're left arguing with a ghost in your head for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And you will always lose that argument because they can't defend themselves. They can't explain their intent. That uncertainty, that lack of an answer is what eats people alive.
The source actually lists specific phrases that people regret not saying. And I want to read them because they are so simple, but man, they can stick in your throat. First one, I'm sorry.
The hardest 2 words.
Then I forgive you.
Even harder, sometimes.
That hurt me.
Oof. Vulnerability.
I wish things had been different.
Yeah. Acknowledging the wound.
And this one just floored me. I understand now.
I understand now. That one is just, it's devastating. Because it implies a shift in perspective that came too late.
Right.
Maybe you finally became a parent yourself and suddenly you understood why your own dad was so strict all those years. Or you went through a tough financial time and you finally understood a choice your mom made that you judged her for.
But you never got to tell him. You never got to say, hey, I get it now. I see what you were trying to do, and I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner.
That's a huge weight to carry.
So why do we choke on these? Is it just pride?
It's pride, sure, but I think it's mostly fear. We are terrified of the reaction. We are afraid that if we bring up the hard thing, it will blow up the relationship in the final act. We don't want to ruin the ending.
We want the last memories to be peaceful.
We do. But the expert insight here, and this is backed by decades of psychology, is that the discomfort of vulnerability is temporary.
It's the Band-Aid theory. Rip it off fast.
Right. It might be an awkward hour. It might be a tearful afternoon. It might even be a fight. But the regret of silence, the regret of the what if, that lasts a lifetime. You are trading 1 hour of discomfort for potentially 30 years of wondering.
That is a terrible trait.
It's the worst trade you can possibly make.
Okay, let's move to the next section because this one, I'm not going to lie, this one felt like it was written directly for me. It felt like a personal attack on my lifestyle.
Let me guess. Not being fully present.
You got it. The regret of distraction.
I think this is an attack on the entire 21st century, to be fair.
The source talks about it and gives these scenarios that are just, I mean, I've done this. I know I have. Sitting next to someone in a hospital bed or even just in their own living room, but you're scrolling on your phone.
The physically present, emotionally absent phenomenon, we are masters of it.
Yeah. Listening half-heartedly while you're actually checking your work emails, multitasking during a conversation, doing the yeah, that's crazy, while you're actually just looking at Instagram.
We've all done it. We've convinced ourselves that hanging out is just about sharing GPS coordinates. As long as we are in the same room, breathing the same air, that counts as quality time.
But the source says that survivors realized later, much too late, that presence was the real gift. Not presence, but presence. The undivided attention.
The simple act of being there with your whole self.
But I want to push back on this a little bit because it seems easy to say, but the source mentions this regret specifically for people who were caring for someone with a long illness.
Right, the caregiver guilt.
Yeah. And as someone who hasn't been in that exact position but can certainly imagine it, if you are a caregiver, aren't you present too much? I mean, you're there 24/7, you're changing sheets, you're managing meds, you're dealing with doctors. How can you possibly regret not being present enough?
That is such a valid pushback. And the source actually addresses this nuance with a lot of compassion.
Yeah.
It's not about the quantity of time, it's about the quality. It distinguishes between what it calls logistics mode and presence mode.
Okay, break that down for me.
When you are a caregiver, you are essentially a project manager for a failing project. That's the brutal reality.
Wow.
You are managing the business of keeping a body alive. You are tracking oxygen levels. You are fighting with insurance companies on the phone. You are scheduling a dozen different appointments. Your brain is in hyperdrive solving problems. You are doing for the person.
Right. And if you stop doing that, very bad things happen. You can't just clock out.
Exactly. So you can't just stop. But the regret comes from the realization that in all that doing, they forgot to just be. They treated the person like a patient instead of a parent or a partner or a friend. The relationship got lost in the tasks.
So what's the fix? Because the meds still need to be managed. The insurance company still needs to be yelled at.
The fix isn't to stop caring. It's to carve out micro moments of pure presence. It's about consciously switching modes. The source suggests literally telling yourself, okay, for the next 10 minutes, I am not a nurse. I am a daughter.
Just 10 minutes.
Even 5. Put the clipboard down.
Yeah.
Put the phone in the other room on silent. Sit in the chair, hold their hand, look at their face. Don't talk about symptoms. Ask them about their day or a memory, or just sit in silence.
Because those 5 minutes of pure, undeleted connection are what you will actually remember.
That's it. You won't remember the exact dosage of the beta blocker you gave them on a Tuesday in March. You will remember the way their hand felt in yours.
That's good advice. It makes it manageable. It's not this impossible goal of be a perfect present angel for 6 straight months. It's be present for 10 minutes today.
Exactly. It lowers the bar to something achievable, even on the hardest days.
This leads perfectly into the next major regret, which I think is one of the most tragic ones on the whole list. The source calls it not asking questions, but I think your name for it is better. The lost archive.
This is the library on fire concept.
I've heard that phrase before. When an old man dies, a library burns to the ground.
It's a powerful African proverb.
Yep.
And the source really leans into this idea. Think about what a library actually contains. It's not just the headlines of a life. It's not just born 1950, married 1975, died 2025.
Right. Those are the Wikipedia bullet points. We all know the bullet points.
But a library has the periodicals. It has the daily newspapers. It has the texture of life, the inside jokes, the secret family recipes, the petty feuds with the neighbor from 3 doors down, the smell of the old house.
All the details.
All the unrecorded data. When a person dies, all of that just vanishes. It's deleted from the server, and there's no backup.
And the trap is that we assume we know them. That's what gets me. I think about my dad, and I think, yeah, I know Dad. He likes golf, and he hates cold soup. But I don't really know the person he was before I existed.
You know him as Dad.
Yeah.
You don't know him as Steve, the terrified 22-year-old trying to figure out his life.
Exactly. So the source has a checklist, and usually I hate checklists in these kinds of emotional articles, but this one is pure gold. It lists the questions people regret not asking. And I want to go through these, not just to list them, but to really talk about why they matter so much.
Let's do it.
Okay, question 1 from the source. What was your childhood like? That seems so basic, but do we really know the details?
We usually know the generic version. Oh, we grew up poor, or we lived on a farm in Ohio. But we don't know the specifics. Asking, what did your bedroom look like? Or who was your best friend in 3rd grade and what did you get in trouble for? That unlocks a completely different level of memory.
Question 2. What were you afraid of?
Ooh, that is the deep dive question right there.
Why is that one so powerful? What does it unlock?
Because parents, and grandparents especially, they try to project invulnerability to their kids. It's their job to be the strong ones, the ones who aren't scared.
The protectors.
The protectors. Asking, what were you afraid of, rehumanizes them. It takes them off the pedestal and puts them on the couch next to you as a peer. It reminds you that they were just people, like you, figuring it out and being scared. It creates this incredible bond.
I love that. Okay, question 3. What were you most proud of? And the source adds a little note, and not just my kids.
Right. Don't let them get away with the easy, family-focused answer. Ask about their career. Ask about a hobby. Ask about that time they fixed the car engine with a wrench and a piece of gum. Let them brag about something that was just for them.
Question 4. What do you wish you had done differently?
That's the wisdom question. That's you asking for the map of the landmines they stepped on so that maybe you don't have to. It's an incredible gift to receive that kind of honesty.
And the last one on their list. How did you rate the people who mattered most to you?
The origin stories. We often forget that our parents had entire social lives, romances, heartbreaks, and deep friendships before we ever came along. Hearing how they met their best friend or your other parent, it's like watching the pilot episode of a show you came into on season 3.
The source mentions that grandchildren often miss out on family history because the middle generation, us, we're the ones who fail to ask these questions. We break the chain of knowledge.
We are the bridge. And if the bridge is out, the grandkids never get to the other side. They never know.
This is connected to the other part of the Lost Archive, which is the media void. The source makes a fascinating point about photos and videos. It says people rarely regret taking too many photos.
Almost never.
They regret taking too few of the everyday moments.
This is the Instagram versus reality problem, right?
Yeah.
We have thousands of photos on our phones, but look at your camera roll. What are they really?
They're sunsets, they're plates of really nice food, or they're selfies where everyone is posed and smiling and looking their best.
Exactly. It's the, okay, everybody stand together, say cheese. It's artificial. It's a performance. The source explicitly lists the missing artifacts that people desperately crave later on. Voice recordings, casual videos.
Voice recordings? Man, that hit me so hard. I have thousands of photos of my grandmother, but I don't think I have a single solitary recording of her voice. Not one.
And the science of memory tells us that the voice is often the first thing to fade. You can visualize their face perfectly, but you can't quite hear the timbre of their laugh anymore. You can't hear the specific cadence of how they told a story.
And the sound is so evocative. The source also suggests capturing shared routines and small habits.
Yes. This is so important. Don't just film the big birthday cake moment. Film them reading the newspaper in their favorite chair. Film them struggling to open a stubborn pickle jar. Film them humming off key while they do the dishes.
The boring stuff.
The boring stuff is the texture of life. That's what you miss. The expert commentary in the text calls these things artifacts of memory. They aren't just digital files, they are time travel devices. They are portals back to a moment.
It's the difference between a posed studio portrait and a fly-on-the-wall documentary. And what we crave, what we miss, is the documentary.
We crave the documentary, but we are too vain or too busy to shoot it. We want everyone to look good. The source is just screaming at us, forget looking good, capture what's real.
Okay, moving on to something a bit tougher. The category is emotional conduct. The source talks about the regret of not being kinder or more patient.
This is what I call the magnifying glass of grief.
What does that mean? Explain that.
It means that when someone is gone, your brain has this nasty, cruel habit of fixating on the moments where you weren't your best self. It takes small moments of impatience and blows them up to an epic scale.
Oh, God, I know exactly what you mean. The snapped comment, the eye roll, the argument over something completely trivial like the remote control.
The eye roll. You're stressed, you're tired, your mom asks you the same question for the third time in 10 minutes, and you just roll your eyes and snap, I already told you, Mom, weren't you listening?
In the moment, that is a nothing event. It's a microaggression. It's over and forgotten in 10 seconds.
But after they die, that one tiny moment can become a monster in your memory. It can feel unbearable, as the source puts it, because there's no counterbalance anymore. You can't smooth it over.
You can't apologize 5 minutes later and give her a hug.
You can't hug it out.
Huh.
It's the last frame of the movie, and you hate that it's a bad one. And the source says people deeply regret not prioritizing compassion over the need to be right. And that is such a powerful lesson for the living. Is being right about whose turn it is to empty the dishwasher worth the potential memory of that conflict being your final interaction?
Usually no. I mean, almost always no.
But we don't think that way in the heat of the moment. Our ego takes over.
There's also a specific regret under this umbrella, not supporting them more during illness. And the source gets really specific here. Not visiting enough, not advocating harder with doctors, not understanding their emotional suffering. Honestly, this feels like a heavy burden. It feels like a trap designed for guilt.
It is a trap, and this is where I want to step in. And the text itself does this too, to its credit, to offer some massive grace. Because looking back with 20/20 hindsight, it is so easy to say, I should have visited every single day, or I should have screamed at that doctor until he listened.
But at the time,
At the time, you were working a full-time job. You had kids of your own to take care of. You were terrified out of your mind. You were exhausted. You were running on fumes. The source clarifies that survivors often hold themselves to impossible standards. They judge their past selves with the perfect knowledge of the present.
that's totally unfair.
It is deeply unfair to your past self. You can't pour from an empty cup, and often during a long illness, the caregiver's cup is bone dry.
There's a quote here I highlighted that I think saves this whole section from being just pure depression. It says, "This regret speaks less about actual failure and more about love that wishes it could have done more."
That's the reframe we all need to hear. It's not that you failed. It's that your love for them is so big it wishes it had been superhuman. It wishes it could have stopped the cancer with its bare hands. It wishes it could have been in two places at once. But you're just human. You have limits. And regretting your limits is a sign of immense love, not a sign of incompetence.
I like that. Regretting your limits is a sign of love. That's beautiful. That's something you can work with.
It allows you to finally forgive yourself.
Let's pivot to the practical side, because remember, we are diving into the funeral program site. We are in the funeral channel network ecosystem. And they deal with the logistics of leaving every single day.
Right.
So it makes sense that a huge regret they see on the commercial side is about unclear wishes.
This is what I call the chaos regret.
The chaos regret, I like that name. What is it?
It's the absolute mess you leave behind when you don't make your wishes known. When you don't have the conversation about what you want for medical care, for your funeral, for your possessions, for who gets the piano, who takes the cat, you leave your family in a state of pure guessing.
And guessing breeds conflict.
It breeds war. I have seen, and the site alludes to this, families completely destroyed because they couldn't agree on whether Dad wanted to be buried or cremated, and because Dad never wrote it down or said it clearly, both sides think they are honoring him, and they tear each other apart over it.
And the source says people avoid this conversation because talking about death feels uncomfortable. It feels morbid. You hear it all the time. Oh, I don't want to talk about my funeral. I'm perfectly healthy.
But then one day you're not, and it becomes unavoidable. And suddenly your kids, who are already exhausted and grieving, are standing in a funeral home trying to pick out a casket, arguing about money and what you would have wanted. It is the final greatest gift you can give your family. Clarity. Just write it down.
This connects directly to the next regret on the list. Missing rituals. Not creating a meaningful goodbye.
Rituals are so interesting. In our modern, increasingly secular world, we've kind of moved away from them. We have this idea that they're stuffy or old-fashioned.
Right. The classic line is, oh, I don't need a big funeral. Just throw my ashes in the ocean and have a party.
Don't make a fuss. We hear that all the time. Don't make a fuss. But the source argues, and again, this is supported by their own business data, that those rituals are the bridges we build over the chasm of loss. The source mentions things like writing letters, holding small family gatherings, sharing stories. These are all rituals.
And here, right here, is where we see the connection to what the site actually does. I mean, if you look at their navigation bar, they sell funeral program templates, memorial keepsakes, casket panels, outdoor memorials like wind chimes and garden stones.
Right. And at first glance, you might be cynical about that. You might say, Do I really need a graduated gatefold funeral program with a gold border? Is that just capitalism finding another way to capitalize on death?
I will admit I definitely had that thought. Like, do I need a branded memorial wind chime?
Now,
Really?
but the expert perspective here, the one the source is built on, is to look at why those products exist in the first place. Why do people buy a custom casket panel or a set of awareness ribbons? It's not just mindless consumerism. It's because as humans, we need tangible symbols. Grief is abstract. It's a fog. It's messy and formless.
We need something to hold on to.
And we need an anchor. A well-designed program that tells the person's life story. That's not just a piece of paper. That's a biography. It's a validation that this person lived and they mattered. A wind chime. That's a way to hear their voice in the wind when you're sitting on your porch a year later. These are tools to help the brain and the heart process the reality of the loss.
So when you skip the ritual, when you don't make a fuss, you are actually robbing the survivors of that essential processing tool.
Exactly. The source says when those rituals are missing, grief feels suspended. It's like a sentence without a period at the end. You just sort of drift. You don't know when it's okay to move to the next sentence.
We need the period. That's a great way to put it. Okay, so what happens after the funeral? The flowers are dead, the guests have gone home. The source dives into the aftermath. And the first regret here is a big one: neglecting the self.
Ah, yes, the martyr complex of grief. We see this all the time. We throw ourselves into responsibilities. We have to manage the estate. We have to comfort the kids. We have to write 100 thank you notes. We go back to work immediately because we have to keep moving.
Keep busy trap. If I stay busy, I won't have to feel anything.
And we completely ignore our own well-being. The list of regrets here is so telling. Not asking for help, not seeking therapy, not setting boundaries with well-meaning but draining relatives.
And not allowing themselves to cry. The source talks about the performance of grief, trying to grieve the right way.
Ooh, the performance. Society puts so much pressure on us to grieve neatly. Be strong for the kids.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want you to be sad. Or my personal least favorite, it's been 6 months. Shouldn't you be dating again?
It's just gross when you say it out loud like that.
It is gross. But it's pervasive. So people regret hiding their tears or minimizing their own pain just to make other people comfortable. They perform wellness while they're drowning inside.
And the truth, as the source states so clearly, is that grief does not follow a timeline. It's not a checklist.
It's not linear at all.
Yeah.
It's a spiral. It comes in waves. If you rush it, you just bury it. And like anything you bury alive, it will claw its way out eventually, usually in a much more destructive way, through drinking or anger or deep depression.
There is one regret in this section that I found really, truly heartbreaking, and I think we need to talk about it specifically. The source calls it the silence of names.
This is so profound. And it's incredibly common. Many, many people, after a loss, they stop speaking the loved one's name.
Why? Why would they do that?
Not because they forget. Never because they forget.
But
Because they learn very quickly
Yeah.
that it makes other people uncomfortable.
I've seen this happen in real time. You walk into a room, you mention your deceased husband in a casual story, oh, Bob used to love this song, and the entire room goes dead silent. Everyone looks at their shoes.
It just sucks the air right out of the room. People don't know what to say. They panic. They're afraid of upsetting you. So the survivor learns a lesson, consciously or not. Talking about Bob makes people uncomfortable, so I will stop talking about Bob.
And the regret that comes later is that it feels like the relationship has become taboo. It feels like Bob has been erased from the present.
Yes. It isolates the survivor completely. They are alone with Bob in their head. The source encourages people to insist on remembrance. Break the taboo. Speak their name. Tell their stories. If you don't, you regret allowing that social awkwardness to erase their presence from your daily life. Make people uncomfortable if you have to. It's better than the erasure.
Insist on remembrance. I love that as a command. It's an action.
It's an act of rebellion against the finality of death.
The final regret in this aftermath section is misunderstanding the process, specifically expecting closure.
Closure. That word. I have such a complicated relationship with that word. It's a media buzzword that I think often does more harm than good.
Why? We all want closure. We want the book to close so we can start a new one.
But it implies a door shutting, a finish line. Okay, I have now achieved closure, and I am officially done grieving. That's not how human attachment works. The regret is waiting for that magical moment where the pain ends, because it never comes.
So you end up feeling like you're failing at grieving because you're still sad 5 years later.
Exactly. You think, what's wrong with me? Why haven't I found closure yet? The expert insight here, from the source and from psychology in general, is that love doesn't end. It just changes form. Grief evolves into wisdom. It's not about getting over it. It's about integration, learning to carry the loss with you.
It's like learning to walk with a limp. You don't stop walking, but your stride is different forever.
That's a perfect analogy. And eventually, you don't notice the limp as much on a day-to-day basis. But it's always part of your gait. It's part of who you are now.
So we've gone through this entire list, and it is heady. I mean, there's no way around that. We've talked about unspoken love, avoided conflict, distraction, lost stories, impatience, chaotic logistics, and the silence of names. But the conclusion of the source, it really tries to lift us back up. It reframes the entire concept of regret.
It does. It argues that regret is not a sign of failure. It is, in fact, a sign of love.
Explain that. That feels counterintuitive.
If you didn't love them so much, you wouldn't regret not spending more time with them. If they didn't matter to you, you wouldn't care that you missed the chance to ask them about their childhood. The pain of the regret is directly proportional to the depth of the love. It's the shadow that love casts.
So the goal isn't to beat yourself up for having regrets.
No, absolutely not. The goal is to let regret be a teacher.
A teacher for the living.
Exactly. To use that pain to make us more present, more expressive, more curious, and more compassionate now, with the people who are still here. The source says loss clarifies what really matters. All the noise, the petty arguments, the work stress, the endless phone scrolling. It all just falls away.
It really puts things in perspective. I remember when I lost a friend a few years ago. For about 2 months, I was the best version of myself. I called my parents all the time. I didn't get mad in traffic. And then slowly, it faded. I went back to normal.
It always fades. That's the grief fog lifting and real life creeping back in. But the source is asking us, begging us, to grab onto that clarity and hold on to it, to make that perspective a discipline, not just a temporary reaction.
The text ends with this beautiful thought, and I think it sums everything up. It says, the greatest tribute isn't perfection, but presence.
That's the entire takeaway in one sentence. You don't have to be the perfect spouse or the perfect child or the perfect friend. You don't have to have the perfect script for every difficult conversation. You just have to be there. You just have to show up fully when you can.
So we've unpacked this source from the Funeral Channel network ecosystem. And while on the surface it looks like a list of regrets on a website that sells funeral programs, it's really a to-do list for us for today.
It is. It's an urgent invitation to live differently.
So here's our challenge to you listening. Don't just listen to this deep dive and nod your head and say, wow, that's profound, and then immediately open TikTok. Do one thing. Just one.
Ask someone you love one of those questions from the list. What were you afraid of when you were my age? That's a great starter. It opens up a real conversation.
Or take your phone out, not to check email, but to record a 30-second video of your mom just making coffee, or your dad watching TV. Capture the mundane. Archive the normal.
Say the words, I love you to someone today, even if it feels awkward. Especially if it feels awkward.
Because as we learn from the source, the awkwardness is temporary, the silence is permanent.
And just remember this final thought. The source mentions that we often wait until it is too late to become curious about the people we love. We feel like we know them so well that we just stop asking questions.
We think we have them figured out.
But the reality is, every person you love is an entire universe of stories, fears, and triumphs. And you have probably only charted a tiny, tiny corner of it.
Don't wait until the library burns down to finally go and check out the books. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Funeral Channel Network's wisdom.
Take care of each other out there.
See you next time.